Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your participation at this online event. It is an honor for me to coordinate today's meeting, during which we will discuss gender equality in teaching and research with professionals and experts in the field. I remember that today we will have two meetings online. The first one is this in the morning, entitled Gender Equality in Teaching and Research. And the second one is in the afternoon at 2 p.m., entitled Gender-Based Violence. Before diving into the session, I'd like to provide some technical information. Please note that this event will be recorded and uploaded to the UNIgreen YouTube channel for informational purposes. After each presentation, we will hold a Q&A session. Feel free to use the chat at any time to share comments or ask questions. This is your opportunity to engage directly with our speakers. I will relay your questions to them throughout the event. And now, something about myself. My name is Giacomo Guaraldi, and I am the Rector's Delegate for Disability and Specific Learning Disorders at University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, as well as a member of UNIgreen work package number 5 called Diversity, Inclusiveness and Multiculturalism. I am a specialized teacher in disability support and oversees the welcome. I am the responsible of the welcome service for students with disabilities and with specific learning disorders at University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. And I am also involved in numerous training and awareness raising projects aimed at supporting students with disabilities and with specific learning disorders. Before introducing our speakers, I'd like to take a moment to speak about the UNIgreen Alliance, and in particular, the aims of the UNIgreen Work Package 5, Diversity, Inclusiveness and Multiculturalism, the group that organized today's two online meetings. About UNIgreen. UNIgreen is a European university alliance supported by the Erasmus Plus program, which unites 8 higher education institutions specializing in sustainable agriculture, green biotechnology, and environmental and life sciences. Our mission at UNIgreen is based on 4 primary goals. The first one is the support the green transition. The second one is boost innovation. The third one is globally connected. And the last one is for all and with all, which is the one connected to today's talk. This mission reflects our dedication to creating an inclusive and diverse educational environment, free of violence, harmful speech, discrimination, and gender stereotypes. Our purpose is to empower students and members of the academic community to grow as critical thinkers, problem solvers, multicultural, multilingual, entrepreneurial, creative, responsible, and socially engaged citizens. We hope they will become role models in challenging gender stereotypes, upholding the common European identity, and fostering mutual respect and understanding. Alongside this mission, the UNIgreen Code of Values serves as the foundation for guiding UNIgreen's goals in education, research, and innovation, which support a more environmentally friendly and resource-efficient future. This code is rooted in a zero-tolerance policy toward all forms of discrimination, racism, sexism, segregation, and bullying. You can find the complete list of the values of UNIgreen on our website. But 3 of them, closely tied to the mission for all and with all, further define the Work Package 5 approach and inspire our activity and guidelines for the Alliance. The first one is called Diversity, Inclusion and Multiculturalism, promoting a multicultural, multilingual environment that embraces linguistic and cultural diversity across the Alliance. This is integral in building an academic community that is both open-minded and globally oriented. The second one is called Equity and Equality, creating fair and inclusive educational environment with equal opportunities for all, with a particular focus on increasing women's participation in STEM fields. Today, thanks to Claudia Canali, we will focus on this value that aims to empower all members of the community. And the last one is promotion of human rights and European values, advocating for democratic values, human rights, and responsible citizenship by contributing to global democratic and human rights agendas. And now we will see the main objectives of Work Package 5, which are to increase the visibility and reduce the barriers to the integration of groups that are underrepresented or at risk of discrimination, such as gender, ethnic, racial, age, social, religious, for example. And then to raise awareness and educate the Alliance academic community on the topics of diversity, equality, inclusiveness, and multiculturalism. And then to create a welcoming environment to the Alliance academic community. But remember that the Work Package 5 is the guardian of the Alliance diversity, equality, inclusiveness, and multiculturalism strategy. Sorry, somebody asked me that you don't hear me, or you hear me?
No, don't worry, Giacomo. Everybody heard you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we can continue. And now, let me introduce our speakers. The first one is Ricarda Voka Lukensu, who is an engineer student, third year, and UNIgreen ambassador at Apple, the University of Belgium. The second one is Gunnhildur Guðbrandsdóttir, I'm sorry for my pronounce, who is an administrative officer for graduate studies at the Agriculture University of Iceland and UNIgreen WP5 member. Then we will hear Claudia Canali, who is an associate professor at the Department of Engineering Enzo Ferrari, called Enzo Ferrari, at the University and Modena and Reggio Emilia. And the last one is Tindara Addabbo, who is a full professor of economic policy at the Department of Economics called Marco Biagi at University in Modena, Reggio Emilia, and UNIgreen WP5 member 2. And now, sorry, I have another slide. And at the end of the morning, we ask you to answer this survey. Now, at the end of the morning, I will see you a QR code, because your opinion will help us to improve the organization of future UNIgreen events. And now I pass the floor to the first speaker, who is Ricarda Voka Lukensu, who is, as I said, an industrial engineering student and a UNIgreen ambassador for the University of Belgium. She is 24 years old, and until last year, she was a member of the Erasmus Student Network for 3 years. She loves reading and doing sport. So thank you, Ricarda, for your speech.
So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I'd like to share some personal thoughts and insights on the topic of women in science, especially in Belgium, with a focus on the challenges and triumph of being a woman and a Black woman in this field. So to start, I'll tell you a bit about my own journey. As a Black woman studying in science in Belgium, I've been fortunate not to encounter any direct discrimination based on my gender or race. However, what's often shocking and, to be honest, intimidating, is that every time I interned, I was the only woman in the room, and it's also the case actually in my class. I'm the only girl in my class, but field as biology or chemistry, there are more girls than boys. So all these technical and engineering fields still carry a masculine image, which can hold some young women back from taking this first step. Myself too, I was quite intimidated to start with this field because of the masculine image. And I was happy to have my parents who really pushed me to overcome it and continue in my studies. So for now, let's look back at how far we've come. So first, women first entered scientific studies in Belgium in 1880 at Université Libre de Bruxelles, ULB. Starting with the field as chemistry, biology, philosophy, and medicine. And all this progress was thanks for Marie Poplin, who was the first woman to get a law degree in Belgium, and also Isabelle Gatti de Gamon. She opened a higher education university for women who provided rigorous education challenging the norms of that era. After the Second World War, women, there were more women in science, and as Ida Brad in biology, and Margaret Massart in physics, who really made a name in the field, who was dominated by women. And they are really role models who inspired future generations. What about today? Today, even if science is open to women, and but it's still, there is only 30% of scientists in Belgium who are women. And we can also see that there are more women in the field like biology and chemistry than engineering and physics. As I said before, they were the field that opened the door first for women, and that's why I think it's until now it's carrying the feminine image, and all the strong science field still carrying the masculine image. So let's switch and talk about intersectionality and Black women in sciences. So this concept was developed by Kimberly Crenshaw. She explains how overlapping identities, like being both a woman and a Black, can create unique experiences of discrimination. These women can encounter both racial and gender biases, and the challenge they face are often different from those experienced by white women or Black men. Also, the book Women, Race and Class by Angela Davis highlights this well, showing how Black women in professional spaces often contend with layered obstacles. One other source that resonates with me is the podcast episode I recently listened to, which dives into the lived experience of Black women in science. It's an eye-opener on how they navigate these spaces where role models and mentors are scarce and biased, sometimes exist openly or subtly. Another compelling read is Les Grands Oubliés by Titou Lecoq, which discusses the historical erasure of women in many fields, especially women of color. So to wrap up, we've become all a long way, but there is still a journey ahead. Women have fought for their place in science. We owe it to the pioneers to keep pushing for inclusivity, particularly for women of all backgrounds. I believe our generation has a real opportunity to break down these remaining barriers so that young women, especially those from diverse backgrounds, see science as a place for them too. So thank you for listening, and I'd be happy to take any question or hear your thoughts on the importance of inclusivity in science. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ricarda, for your communication and congratulations. Now I would like to ask our listeners if they have any questions for the speaker. We have some time to do questions, and so I ask if there is somebody who wants to ask to Ricarda a question. Okay. Okay. The first question is this. What are the main factors that still hinder women's access to science in Belgium, Ricarda?
I think there are all those cultural stereotypes and traditional gender norms who persist casting certain fields, and here in particular engineering and technology, as inherently masculine. This perception, I think, subtly discourages many young women from pursuing careers in these areas. as they often feel unwelcome or out of place. I also think, furthermore, the lack of female representation. It's true that we see most of the time when we're talking about science and like all the masculine coded science field, we always see more men than women. The image, I think, discourage a lot of young women to take the path.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question. How can educational and social policies help reduce gender gaps and promote diversity in technical and scientific fields?
So, educational and social policies have the power, I think, to fundamentally reshape the landscape of scientific and technical fields by addressing gender gaps and promoting diversity. One impactful approach is the implementation of early initiative in those engineering and technical field. So I think engaging more activities to young women until they're really very young, so they can share and show them that those fields are really open to everybody and it's not only for boys. And also, I think sparking interest before gender norms fully set it, like really when they are young, I think is how we can reduce more and more the gaps of gender.
Thank you. We have to work a lot in this field. And we have another question, which is how can the concept of intersectionality influence efforts to make science more inclusive for women of diverse ethnic backgrounds?
First, the concept offers a transformative framework for understanding and addressing the nuanced challenges faced by women from diverse ethnic backgrounds in science. Intersectionality acknowledge that gender, race, and class do not operate in isolates, but rather intersects to create unique experiences of discrimination and opportunity. Also, recognizing these layers of identities allows institutions to address specific obstacles faced by women of color, such as limited access to resource support networks and fair representation. And through the intersectional approach, organization can also develop target mentorship and the support systems that are sensitive to these experiences, fostering an environment where women from all backgrounds can thrive. And I think that's how it can help.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, there is another question from Marta, who says thanks for the talk. Is there any systemic approach to strengthen multiculturalism and equality in your university in Belgium?
Now there is something new we just started, is the cellule d'égalité. It's really it's really recently open, so it can help everybody. Now it's focused, for example, on it's focused on gender only gender equality, but I think later they really wanted to be open and help to be more equal for gender and also about all people of color.
Okay. We have another question. Sorry, but there are a lot of questions. We have another questions in which they say, you said that you didn't get any problem during your internship. How were you welcomed by your colleague?
Oh, pretty well. And honestly, when I want to apply somewhere, I always be sure that my full name is written and also I put a picture. So they always know that I'm a woman and also that I'm Black. When a company want to hire me, I'm kind of always sure that it's going to be okay because they already know who they are taking. So every time my experience there was really nice. And I know for others, Black women, for example, it's a problem and they don't like to put their full names, for example, or to put their picture because they are afraid not to be engaged because the company will know that they are Black and etc. But for me, it was okay, and I really think it's a good way, to be sure that you're going to be well welcomed in your company.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Ricarda for the communication and congratulations. Now let us turn to the second speaker, who is Gunnhildur. As I said, Gunnhildur holds a Bachelor of Science in Geography and a Master's degree in Development Studies. She has extensive experience working with people from diverse cultural and professional backgrounds, which has shaped the global perspective. For the past 2 years and a half, she has served as an administrative officer for the graduate studies at the Agricultural University of Iceland. Gunnhildur is also a member of the university's Equality Board and actively collaborates with other public universities in Ireland to promote equality and inclusion. Her primary interests include advancing feminist perspectives. So let's listen to Gunnhildur. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Gunnhildur, as Giacomo said. Guðbrandsdóttir. It's a little bit hard. I can accept that. It's a little bit hard. I am one of the two equal representatives of the Agricultural University of Iceland. We have this committee that we are only three. It's 2 staff and 1 student. Today, I'm going to talk about equality in Iceland. I'm going to give you a brief presentation of the development of equality with focus on education in Iceland and how the history of education has developed in terms of equality. But I will start with few facts about Iceland because, like most of you know, Iceland is quite high when it comes to equality ranking. So I will just point out some statistical facts. I will continue to pointing out acts and laws that have been done in Iceland to guarantee equality. And finally, I will give you a brief overview of what the Agricultural University of Iceland does to follow these acts and ensure equality amongst students and staff. If I start with Iceland, Iceland has topped the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Index 14 years in a row. The higher education of Icelandic women is quite high. 50% of women of the age of 26 to 64 have higher education, like bachelor, master's, or PhD. But only 35% of men at the same age gap have higher education. But at the same time, women only have 73.8% of the salary of men. But women, they continue to educate themselves. University students, Icelandic university students in 2023 were divided into women were 12,900 and men were 68,072. So women are educating themselves in Iceland, but it doesn't reflect our salaries, unfortunately. And it affects our, we are less likely to become, to get higher positions, like being ministers and managers. But still, we have had 2 female prime ministers, and we had 2 female presidents, but we have had 32 prime ministers. So we only have had 2 out of 32 and 2 presidents out of 7 presidents in total. Here are our 2 female prime ministers, Jóhanna Sigurðardóttir and Katrín Jakobsdóttir. And I had to point out that we had those this long list of male prime ministers as well. It's not that we only have had 2 prime ministers who happen to be women. That's not. We have had a lot of prime ministers, and most of them were men. And then we had our female presidents, and Mrs. Vigdís Finnbogadóttir was actually the first democratic elected president in the world, and she was a president from 1980 to 1996. So I grew up having a female president, and she was a really good role model for us, generation X and millennials. And then now, since August this year, we have had a new female president called Halla Tómasdóttir, and of course, long list of male presidents. I'm going to give you a small, brief history of women's rights in Iceland. Prior to the 20th century, women were in general owned by men as wives or maids. In 1915, women over 40 years old got the right to vote. In 1920, all women over the age of 25 got the same right as men to vote. In 1922, we had our first female member of parliament. She was elected to Alþingi, which is our parliament. In the 90s and 40s, women entered the workforce in large numbers, but maybe didn't get the same salaries as men. In 1961, our first Equal Pay Act was passed to try to reduce the wage gap between women and men. In 1976, the Gender Equality Council was established to monitor gender equality efforts. In 1999, we established the law of equal pay for equal work. Those are just few steps in the process of equal rights for women in Iceland. And in some aspects, we were prior to other countries, but we have been later in others. And women felt in 1975, women felt that they were not respected in the workforce, and their contribution to the economy and the society wasn't valued. So 90% of all women all around the country went on a strike the 24th of October in 1975 to show the importance of women to the society and the economy and to the workforce. And in the same day, 2023, women and non-binary people striked again for all aspects of work, the unpaid labor, childcare, housework, and emotional work. And this strike in 2023 was also a protest against gender-based violence. So even though we rank high in all lists of welfare and equality in the world, nothing is perfect. But how did all this happen? How did we? And this shows that women really have had to fight for everything. Everything we have, women have fought for it. We have fought for the right to education, the right to vote, the right to for a seat in the parliament, the right to contraceptions, the right to abort pregnancy, right to daycare, right to the same salary for the same work, right to our own bodies, and we really have fought for the rights to put all these rights or human rights into national law. And we always have to remember to thank the women that came before us and fought for our rights. And the women also fought for the right for children to be educated. And in 1908, compulsory schooling for children was endorsed for children 10 to 14 years old. Before that, schooling was limited, mostly due to geographical isolation and lack of teachers. But richer young men have had the opportunity to become priests for a few hundred years. But ever since the 18th century, parents were obligated to educate the children, mostly in reading, poetry, Christianity, and math. With the establishment of mandatory schooling, urban districts had to provide physical primary schools, but in rural areas, we had so-called mobile schools who were organized so that the teacher traveled between farms where the local kids were gathered, and then he stayed there maybe for 2 or 3 weeks and taught the children. Like my father, who was born in 1947, went to a mobile school and later to a local secondary school. So it's not that long time ago. Only in 1974, compulsory school extended to 10 years for kids from 6 to 16. In 1994, Iceland accepted the Salamanca Statement and Framework for Action on Special Needs in Education. And in 2008, inclusive education in Iceland was established. That means that school without boundaries. And all those milestones have led to where we are today. And it was all of those steps have been fought for, and they did not come easily. And we, as a university, a modern university, we can thank all those rules and all those rights that women have fought for previously to where we are today. And in Agricultural University of Iceland, we have equality policy and equality plan that we are obligated to follow. And that means that we have the obligation to harmonizing family life and work. and we always have to have equality in mind when we are appointing positions on councils and committees, and to secure access to all students and staff, regardless of disability or other specific needs. And then we have the equality plan. This plan is how to equalize the stat. Oh, sorry. Is how to equalize the status of gender within the university. The equality plan aims to give all staff and students the right to be treated with respect and not to be subjected to any sexual harassment or violence. That all genders have the same opportunities within the university. It aims to pay equally to equal valuable and comparable jobs, to have an equal gender ratio as possible by actively sorry, this is a little bit strange questions. The aim is to appeal to all genders for applying for all jobs and study programs. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. And then we have the Equality Committee, which I'm a part of, and I mentioned before. That consists of 2 staff members and 1 student. The head of the committee is the Equal Opportunities Officer. That's not me, that's my colleague Eyjólfur. He should be involved in developing and presenting proposal for the university's equality plan, and he should follow its progress and review it annually. And one of our main projects or assignments is to organize equality days in Iceland with the other universities, with the other 6 universities. We have 7 universities in Iceland, both private and public. And we all come together in February every year and have equality days like we have here today, but that's more, it's both physical and online. And then we always have a theme, and we address different theme every year. And then we have like many speakers and talks and all kinds of activities. Like 2 years ago, we organized the Pride community in the west side of Iceland, the local Pride association in West Iceland near to Canali, and we invited them to come, and they just had some fun with balloons and some games, and just to show the students that they are there, and everybody can be as they want to be, and that they are welcome. But we all have this good intention, and this is all written in laws, but how do we always have equality in mind, like when we are teaching? And I can tell you that despite good intention, it's not always working. Sometimes teachers only refer to the students as male-centered, with male-centered language. School books are often only represent men and boys. Teachers talk differently to the genders, assuming girls hate math, allowing certain students to dominate discussion, and not addressing harmful comments. So this is some things that we are that we have to be aware of. And what can teachers do instead? They can consider that there might be more than 2 genders in the classroom and avoid stereotypes, provide accessibility to all students with various material on different platforms. And you yourself have to reflect on your own biases and assumption and your own hardest critic, and be your own hardest critic, and use clear language and material. but what about the teachers? That's a little bit connected what I was talking about previously, that we have to ensure transparency in hiring, equal workload, avoid asking women to do academic work, housework. Example, flexible working hours, provide equal access to continuous learning and professional development, and regularly review salaries regarding principles of equal pay. A conclusion: equality process have mostly been driven by women. It doesn't come naturally. Rules and regulations are very important for universities and other educational institutions, because we have to have the tools to follow, and we have to have it written down somewhere, because otherwise we don't have anything to point at. You should do things like this, because if it's just like something, yeah, it all comes with time. It doesn't come with time. We have to fight for it. We have to write it down. We have to have it in rules and regulation. And while the process might be slow sometimes, the regulation and the rules and the laws, they help us moving forward. So I think that's all for me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Gunnhildur, for your interesting and informative presentation. I was particularly struck by the data that you provided. I didn't know your history, and I was really struck by the data you provided and by the history of your country. It seems to me that Iceland is an equal paradise, I think, but also very interesting, the history of women in Ireland and their importance within the society. In other countries, it seems to me that there is still a lot to be done to recognize the role of the women within society. I think to my country. So I would like to remember that UNIgreen has precisely this task, so to recognize the importance of the role of women inside our society. And so now I would like to listeners, if there are any questions to you. There is the first question I would like to ask you is this. I begin before. Do you consider Ireland an equality paradise or not?
No,
No.
Absolutely not. I can honestly say that I am very, very thankful for everything that has been done in Iceland, and we most certainly have more equal rights in Iceland than we have in many other countries, and we appreciate that absolutely. At the same time, violence against women is still common. Domestic violence, sexual violence, sexual harassment, sexual assault. Salaries, we don't have the same salaries as men. Women are primary caretakers of children still. So women-driven sectors like nursing, teaching, like kindergarten teachers, those sectors are have lower salaries than male-driven sectors, like traditionally male-driven sectors. So we are not that different from many other countries, but of course we are very grateful for everything that has been done. but there's still a lot of work, and unfortunately there is still this backlash like everywhere else in transphobia, racism, and homophobia. Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you. There
You're
is
welcome.
another question.
Yeah.
I've noticed subtle forms of inequality at work, like when men tend to buddy up and promotize each other over female colleagues, or listen to male colleagues with more attention without even realizing it. Sometimes make tend to speak up more in meetings because of their education. They sometimes have more self-confidence without even realizing it. Do you have any ideas on how to prevent this, or at least help our male colleagues become more aware of it?
Yes, I don't know. It's women have to, of course, support each other and point out, like, I think she has something to say, and would you like to talk? And when we are moderating meetings, and that we are, it's important that we give each other the space to speak and addressing each other, and also. I really do not always want to tell women and marginalized group to be less afraid to speak up, but maybe that's something that we have to do. But I think that men should themselves take it up on themselves to be aware of not speaking over women and other groups, minority groups, and be. If we dare to, and if we feel comfortable with it, we should address it. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, you don't have to do it. And I think really that more men should point out to other men that they are speaking too much, or they are like speaking over other people and taking up all the space and time. So maybe they could say, "Oh, dear Paul, I think you should give her or them the word now."
Thank you very much. There is another question from Martha, who asks you, great talk, thank you. How is and was in the past the situation of women in a leadership position in Iceland universities?
I think we have had one rector for the biggest university, University of Iceland, one female rector out of, I don't know. I don't really know how many there are, but there's only one woman. And for this university as well, only one. But for now, there are women rectors for I think like half of the universities. But it's similar to other countries. That's like dominantly men that have been rectors or in high positions in the universities. But like in primary schools and secondary schools, the colleges in Iceland, there are a lot of women in principals around the country. So.
Okay, thank you. The last question is, do equality plans and equal pay policies always work?
No. Plain and simple, it doesn't always work.
No.
Absolutely not. But it's better to have them than not to have them, because we can always point at them and say, look, we have this policy and we have this plan, we have to follow it. But no, they're not perfect. They're absolutely not perfect.
Okay, thank you very much, Gunnhildur, for your speech and for your answers. Now I would like to turn to Claudia Canali, who, as I said before, is an associate professor of Department of Engineering called Enzo Ferrari at University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. I remember that her research interests focus on cloud computing, distributed system, and gender equality in ICT. This is the focus that is very important for us today. So I would like to thank Claudia, and I pass the floor to her. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Giacomo. Good morning to everybody. Start just to say that as we all know, gender gap in STEM fields is a big issue in Europe, and not only, let's say, in Europe, because women are severely underrepresented in this kind of field. They actually, by recent data, are only a third of STEM graduates, and specifically in ICT, information and communication technology, that is my field, and this is actually one of the fields where women are more underrepresented, just 19%. And we all know how these fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are important, are fundamental for the capability of innovation, competitiveness, and sustainability for our country. So we all know how bad is the situation for women, first of all, and also for the society and our countries. And recent data show that the gender gap in STEM remains significantly, particularly in some fields of the STEM, like engineering and ICT especially. The reasons and solutions are really complex. The reasons of the gap are many, related to our also cultural stereotypes, and are really complex. I don't have a clear answer, of course, but that was an introductory question to look together with you at these results that I think it deserves a reflection. That this is the result of a research study of a few years ago that gave origin to the so-called gender equality paradox. These are the result of research that some years ago analyzes the percentage of women graduating in STEM fields and try to relate that to the gender equality index of different countries in the world. And the thing that was surprising, also for the researchers themselves that carried out this research, was that at the end, the results showed how the countries that have the more developed and have great policies for gender equality, supporting women, their rights, their work-life balance, many kind of policies for women, are also the countries that have a lower percentage of women among STEM graduates. On the other side, countries in the world where the rights of women usually are not even guaranteed are among the countries that have a higher percentage of women graduating in this country, in these fields. And so that was surprising, as I said, also for the research. The main reason that they gave, of course, was quite simple at the end, was that in countries where women have to fight for their own rights, they are looking, first of all, for independence. And economic independence is the most powerful form of independence for women. And so they are looking for a job, they're trying to have competencies and looking for jobs that can guarantee them to find a job, to find a good job, to be also paid and well paid, and maybe to go abroad. So that was just a reflection that I wanted to share to share with you how complex is the problem of gender equality in STEM, of attracting women, girls to STEM. Then I would like to talk of a project, a particular project that I'm following from its origin, that is Ragazze Digitali, Digital Girls in English. That is basically a summer camp, a project that has grown up pretty much in the last years. It was born in my department in Modena 10 years ago, basically. From a collaboration between the university, my university, and the female association at the European level, EWMD. And it's basically a summer camp. We wanted to do something dedicated to female students in third, fourth years of Italian high school, free for the participants, and basically a long summer camp during between June and July. That was a way to actually doing something concrete for girls. So making them having a fun and creative experience close to computer science. So basically through an approach based on learn by doing, project-based and team working mechanisms, they were experiencing works funny like creating video games in Python or robots in quite informal environment, even if they were doing that within the laboratories of the university. So a first approach with the academic world. This camp, this initiative, had also the important characteristic to exposing the girls to female role models with speeches of experts, of professors, female figures that can counteract the cultural stereotypes that are at the basis of the gender gap in this field, basically. And so this is just a few pictures of the experience of the girls making the project. At the end, they present the project to the public in the final day. And I always remember one of the first video games that a group of high school with a classical background, so no computer science at all in the experience of this girl, developed the first year, that was called the Penelopea. And the sentence that the girls used while presenting this project was, if women are not satisfied with their fate, they have the means to change it. And that was something that we remembered. That was evolution basically through the years, included COVID. We went online to do this experience in terms of numbers of girls involved, always increasing, and also of the logo that was created by the girls themselves and became the logo of the specific years. This kind of project got some important awards in the years. The most important of them, I think, are the last two that I put in the slide. In the 2021, the initiative was mentioned in the She Figures report of the European Commission as the unique experience mentioned in this report in our country, aimed at encouraging girls to pursue studies in ICT and digital fields. And 2 years later, in 2023, it was included in the Observatory of Public Sector Innovation case study library of the OECD. So that observatory on initiative that brings innovation in the public sector. And sorry, switch slide. This project had recent evolutions, quite interesting in the last years, because 2 years ago, our region, the Emilia-Romagna region, where our city is located, has adopted, let's say, the project and financially supports the project since then. The project now is called Digital Girls ER, and the collaboration was extended thanks to this support to all the universities in our region, and the summer camp were replicated. So we gave our our knowledge to replicate the format, to train the trainers and the teachers, and now is replicated in 10 different cities within the region, and then was also extended to another region in the city of Mantua, where our university has a laureate degree in computer science, in computer engineering. And an important experience that I would like to share with you is that this year, in 2024, in Mantua, in Lombardy, we were able to activate a junior version of this project, extended to female students of middle schools. And that was great, had a great success in terms of participation. And I think it was important because in our experience, it's important to go to work with very young girls, to have to be more effective, to have a real change. Because in my experience, talking also with many teachers of the middle school, primary school, middle schools and high schools, they saw that the gap in terms of interest of girls toward technology and STEM fields basically starts between primary and middle school. So it's really important to start to expose the girls really soon to ICT, to computer science, to STEM in general, to STEM disciplines, to have really any impact. Of course, we started this project working with high school because as a university, it's our main stakeholder, but we were very happy to being able to start this project, and we want to go ahead and to replicate also that version of junior digital girls in other countries, in other cities. And then I end my talk with the experience of an Horizon 2020 project that I was involved in. That was important for me. Then I was involved in another project that Unimore coordinated, and that was Let's Jobs, but I'm sure that Professor Tindara Addabbo, that is talking after me, will talk about that. But this one, Equalized, was important because it was the first one that Unimore, my university, was involved in, that was teaching us on how to do gender equality plans at the time where gender equality plans were not still in place and were not mandatory still for a research institution like they actually are to access to European funds. So it was, let's say, something really quite new at the time. Equalize was a project, the complete title was Gender Equality Plans for Information Science and Technology Research Institution. And basically, the coordinator guided 6 European universities through the development of the JEPs with starting from an internal gender audit to understand the situation, and then going through interactive development, monitoring, and evaluation of gender equality plans and the implementation with a strong focus on sustainability. Just to give you an idea of the areas of intervention that we put in our gender equality plan, we were focusing on 4 main areas of intervention. So intervention about teaching and potential students, so how to get women, girls enrolling in STEM, in particular, since the focus of this project on in ICT fields, about research on gender studies, on gender-related topic, of course, policies for human resource management and institutional communication. We had important results actually in many fields. changes in institutional communication was one of the fundamental results. We organized training events dedicated to our university staff members at the time where, as I said before, it was not so common to talk about gender policies and gender training and gender mainstreaming. We were able to have some improvement in terms of policies about work-life balance, mentoring programs and networking events for young researchers. And we started a process that, of course, is going ahead. That was one of the most difficult points at the time of the collection of precise gender disaggregated data and to analyze that both at the university and department level. And that was, of course, the first things to do to understand the situation, to give, to be able to structure and design effective policies. Just an example of communication, students guides before and after in our department. That was the first was focused only on men, that are of course the majority, but it was the only focus of the picture, and then the last picture with girls, smiling girls along with male colleagues. And so this was my presentation. Thank you for the attention. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Claudia, for your interesting presentation on gender in STEM. I think it's a very important and innovative topic, this. But it's still there are still not many girls involved in STEM. And I know that our university, the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, thanks to your support, is working hard to promote the presence of women in STEM. But we know that there are also here a lot of difficulty, as in other universities. So it's really very complex, the problem of the gender in STEM, and I think it's very important to talk about it together. So you remembered a very important project which is present in our university, the Digital Goals. This project which is producing great success, but we know that unfortunately it's not like that in all countries and in all universities. So the first question I would like to ask you, and I would invite all our listeners to do questions by Q&A, is this: how can universities actually contribute to reduce the gender gap in STEM?
Yes, thank you, Giacomo. I think university have great work to do. We started to see that with Equalize, and then go ahead with other projects as the one we have, as you said, as university, many different important projects on that. And well, first of all, I think we have to become part. We are doing that, but we have to improve this, become part of really a community with the same goal, making a community with the stakeholder, the local stakeholder, the national stakeholder, the regional stakeholder, as we actually, as we did with the project Digital Goals, without having in mind that this goal as the first one, not at all, but after some years, it was so obvious that that was the important things to do a sustainable project and to really have an effect. I mean that even in communicating the importance of enrolling, of being part of this field, to have competencies of this field, communicating them that to girls and to women, we have to work together, I think, with the local community, with institutions, also with the companies, because it's now, I think, to be disruptive towards the cultural gender stereotypes that are really one of the main motivation for this gender gap that we saw. Actually, I think the only way is to work together, showing female role models, showing that also companies and also institutions, also universities, of course, for the academic career and research part, give importance to diversity, to inclusion, to have women in their staff and within the institution. I think this is the only way.
Thank you, Claudia. I think it's very important to talk together and to do something in all of our universities and our countries. Our listeners are shy, but I invite them to ask questions and to take advantage of our experts to ask them. So there is another question. This is a question from Cindy, who is our coordinator, the coordinator of our work package number 5, who asks you, your university is really well advanced in the questions of gender. What about Italy in general? Is this a political issue, or is it also pretty advanced in the whole country? Thanks, Claudia.
Well, this is a very good question.
A difficult question. A difficult question for us.
A challenging one. No, it's an interesting one. I think that Italy Italy, let's say, is very complex. Italy is composed of very different parts, including local institutions, local policies, and national policies. I think that in general, in the last years, many things have been done and a lot of attention have been paid to this topic. I mean, I saw the difference, as I said, also during my presentation with respect to 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We have now also official delegates at every level within institutions, within universities, within local government, to equal opportunities. It wasn't the same many years ago. But then there are very different situations depending on where we are in Italy, the region, and also at the national level. It's really could be. It's really different, and I think right now, in terms of national policies, probably not national government, probably. We can improve something in terms of gender equality, but on the other side, I saw in our region, for example, in our cities, a lot of effort also for local government, and not only, I mean, in our region, many regions, towards this topic. But I think that the real key for that also is to make politicians understand that this is not only a fight for women, for them, is not something related to principles only, but it's really important for our country. Because, as I said before, for example, in STEM, but not only in STEM, to enroll women is the only way to have more people with the competence that we need to be competitive, innovating, and sustainable in the modern world. So it's really something that is important for the country.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you very much. We have already few minutes, so there is another question, which is from your experience, how could we encourage more girls to study STEM subjects and pursue a related career?
I think, yes, partially important, as I said before, to start very early, and it would be important, I think, to include, starting from the elementary school, STEM disciplines. For example, I see that especially in computer science, so expose girls very early in to this kind of disciplines, because I see that one barrier for them is as some speaker was telling us before, is a self-efficacy concept. So if they cannot prove themselves, experience this kind of disciplines, prove themselves that they can do that, they can enjoy that, of course, but also be able to do that with good performance, I think that the girls are would have a difficult time to choose this career and study as first. And we also, I think we need to change the way to communicate some kind of fields, and also probably the application fields, the application of some kind of disciplines. For example, computer engineers, computer science. I know that in some countries, some universities started some laureate degrees where the focus of the laureate degree in computer engineering is a strong focus, applicability to medicine, to society, I mean, informatics, to solve problem issues for the community. And this, in this kind of laureate degrees, the enrollment of women was much higher than in traditional computer engineering fields.
Thank you, Claudia. While we are waiting for the next speaker, who is Tindara Addabbo, I would like to ask you, there is another question from Ima. Ima is another member of our WP 5, Work Package 5, which is the work package about inclusiveness and multiculturalism. Ima asks you, do you think it would be interesting to include younger girls in your digital campus initiative? For example, from the age of 12 or 14, who are perhaps already starting to put aside their interest in technology, or is it too early? What do you think about this, Claudia?
No, I think that it would be great, and I think I would like to start even earlier, but then there is the effort to do many projects. But I think as I said, the important thing is to start as soon as possible, even at the primary elementary school. And so I think that would be great. We are trying to do that with the pilot project in Mantova, in another city in Italy close to here. We did a little experiment that was really a success, because we had the first edition, we had 60 young girls, young students aged between 11 and 15 years old in 2 different classes, and they really appreciate the camp. Of course, it's long the way to see the real effect if they will choose a computer science, for example, degree, but it was a success, and I think that would be really, really great in terms of efficacy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you also for this. I'm sorry, but Tindara doesn't answer. And, so I would like to ask you the last question, only to wait for Tindara. The last question is this: are there other specific programs or initiatives that you've seen have a significant impact on closing the gender gap in STEM?
Well, there are many initiatives. I think that one of the most important thing is we also see the evaluation. We did a little bit of evaluation of on our summer camps, since we have a long history of this digital campus. We make not only satisfaction question at the end, but also we started to try to track the career of these girls to understand what is more effective for them. We tried a little differences between the camps, since we have many of them active, to understand if there is something that can be more effective. We saw, for example, that a big difference is in their perception of future attitudes, in the change of future attitudes, at least what they declare at the end of the camp, to have a female teacher, a female tutor or teacher during the summer camp. That was one of the factors, one of the elements that was more important to change their attitude at the end. So the impact of a female role model. More than a classical, let's say, speech, a simple speech, a short speech of an entrepreneur or an academic expert that we always did in every camp. The effective thing was to have a teacher, a female teacher at the camp. More generally, as I said, I think that one of the most important thing is the communication of the kind of our degree, or the communication of the communication that we do as university towards young people. But I think another important, very important step is train the trainers, because digital campus like this campus, yes, it's important, but you work with the girl change, of course, every year, and you have to start again. And if we in the future are not able to do the digital campus, that's it, it's finished. And so to give sustainability, more sustainability, and also extend the effect of the action, the important thing is to train the trainers, not only to do by a technical point of view, this kind of activity, I mean, a creative, funny, project-based approach to computer science, for example, but also to pay attention to the empowerment of the girls, to the language during the camp, and maybe doing something dedicated to girls with a specific attention to these fields. We are starting to do also training of the trainers. It's a long process, but we are doing some also Erasmus Plus project focused on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Claudia, for your suggestions, for your thoughts. We really hope that within our universities, not only in Unimore, but also in the other universities, we can do more and more, and we can encourage the presence of women in STEM. So now I don't understand if Tindara is present. While we are waiting for Tindara, who has some issues, I would like to ask to Claudia if she wants to say something else, or if we can do a question to the other speakers. I don't know, Claudia. It's okay. Okay,
yes,
okay,
thank you.
You speak a lot, so I would like to ask another questions to Ricarda and Gunnhildur while we are waiting for Tindara. To Ricarda, I would like to ask her how can the concept of how can educational and social policies help reduce gender gaps and promote diversity in technical and scientific fields. I don't know if it was the same of before. I don't know. Ricarda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
I hear you. Do you hear the question?
Yes.
Okay, if you wanted to say
I think
something,
you
if you wanted to say something else while we are waiting the next speaker, as you want.
Okay, just work. I think maybe Claudia talked about it before, introducing science and all the STEM field early in for girls, especially, so they can see if they like it or no, and also really putting more female scientists in front so they can have a representation. And maybe why not having a program of mentorship and sponsorship, so they can have a role model they can follow, so they can learn, etc.
Thank you, Ricarda, Voka, for your things, for your speech. And now I would like to ask Gunnhildur if she wants to add something about her speech she did before and about equality plans and equality pay.
Yeah, I agree with Ricarda and Claudia, but it's very important to have representatives in STEM and all aspects of the society and the workforce in the academia, to have women visible for younger women to see, and people from all genders, all ethnics, all, you know, it's this, and it's also like it's also important to address people who have to speak with accent, so that we are, it shows that we speak more than one language, and I think we should not be afraid to talk in public, even though we have accents. I think that's also one important thing to have in mind.
Thank you, Gunnhildur, also for
You're
this.
welcome.
Tindara is finally with us, so we can give her the floor now. Only a brief presentation. As I said before, Tindara Addabbo is a full professor of economics policy at the Department of Economics called Marco Biagi at University in Modena, at Modena Reggio Emilia, and she is UNIgreen Work Package 5 member too. Tindara Addabbo conducts research and publishes in the areas of discrimination by gender budgeting and policies evaluation, inclusive education and well-being. She is the coordinator of the Marco Biagi Foundation Gender Equality Lab, founder and member of the scientific committee of the university startup called IDEM. She has coordinated the H2020 project, leading towards a sustainable gender equality plan in research institution. So I would like to thank Tindara for the presence, and I give her the floor immediately. Thank you, Tindara.
Thank you, but I don't know if you if you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can.
Ah, fine. Can you see also it in full screen?
No. Okay,
Yes.
now yeah. Thank you.
Can you see it going?
Yeah, it works.
Okay, so sorry for the delay. I had some technical problem, but today I would like to talk with you, first of all, by also thinking about the transformative role of a gender perspective in research and teaching. That is the focus of our workshop today. Just give you something, some data, but very small on the state of the art. And I would like also to tackle the role of JEPs in integrating the gender dimension in research and teaching. Then propose also some actions. Are you still with me with the slide also that are progressing?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can
so
see.
Why it is so important to take a gender perspective in research? This is really important, as also I presume the other speakers have shown you, because this entails basically the, can you still see?
Yes.
Questioning
Yes.
the neutrality of scientific knowledge and the product of the knowledge. So if you are gender blind, you can then produce not only gender segregation in techno-scientific knowledge, but also the results of your research, the applied research results can be inefficient, can produce inefficient outcomes, because you are not looking at what are the different impacts by gender of the same policy, for instance, or you don't consider the differences between men and women when you test, for instance, you do a crash test of your car. You should really be not blind to gender for this, but also because through this epistemic recognition of diversity, including also gender diversity, but a vast approach to diversity, in science can truly and concretely contribute to the design of innovative, sustainable, and inclusive social model, also in the same scientific institutions. But why it is so important to take a gender perspective in teaching? Well, basically, it is important because by teaching, you can then train new researchers. And then you need to take this perspective in your teaching. Otherwise, you cannot really teach how to perform a research being really sensitive to gender. Then it is very important in order to promote gender inclusive education, and also that then is going to tackle the gender segregation by field of studies, not only of studies, also in the labor market, because if you're able, by using gender inclusive pedagogy and also gender inclusive measures in order to get more women in some highly masculine sectors, or more men in other sectors, in other area where there are only a few men, that is going to produce also results not only in your institution, your tertiary education institution, but also in society, because then you're going to be to have more women, say, in STEM, and more men in education and training. We have allies in this path to equality, because we have a council recommendation on an European framework to attract and retain research that aims explicitly to better address gender equality, diversity, and precarious working conditions for researchers. Then we have also the Commission, the European Commission strategy for university that includes the objective to increase the women participation in STEM. And also we know that in our Horizon Europe program, we have quite a lot of stress on gender equality, and the very consideration of gender equality plan as an eligibility criterion, then that is present in Horizon Europe, then to have access to funding is something that goes in the same direction. And also the fact that in the gender equality plan, there is a specific area amongst the 5 priority areas that is really devoted to the gender integration in teaching and research. There is also a new indicator that aims to reveal to what extent the existing projects, Horizon Europe, in this case Horizon 2020, I'm referring to an indicator that you can find in She Figures, that reveal you the state of art. Let's see what is happening. Now, if you took the percentage of Horizon 2020 project integrating the gender dimension as part of the project content, then you can see that it is quite a different percentage across the European countries, and you see that average is in Europe 27 is around 1.7. And some of the countries we come from and that are in the UNIgreen alliance are not so good, like say Italy is 147. So that is the state of the art in one part of funding devoted to research by European Commission. But also, if you look at the state of the art in gender equality in teaching, we can see that there is a robust evidence on the lack of implementation of gender equality policies in teaching. And that is something that you can find in EIGE and in these other papers that I mentioned here, and that I will give a reference to you later on. So what we have been doing with other two colleagues of mine, Esther Cois and Ilenia Picardi, basically we did look at how we can really integrate gender dimension in research, because it might seem really abstract. It is not like that, because we can look at the object of our research. We can look at the sex balance in research communication. We can look inside our research groups whether there is this sex balance, and then we should have a look to the perspective of analysis. But let's see at what we found by looking at the gender equality plan of Italian universities. But these are also actions you can find in other universities across Europe. So basically, when we look at the perspective of analysis, we can see, for instance, that there are the inclusion of tools to classify and map research products using gender perspectives, or we can try to promote a gender approach in the design, implementation, and reporting of research projects. Also by introducing a reward system, by saying, look, we are going to consider your effort in introducing a gender approach in your research project. Also, we can do a series of lectures and workshops by giving visibility to the research project and training methods that are particularly significant from a gender inclusion perspective. We can fund postdoctoral fellowship and also research grants that include the adoption of a gender or intersectional approach. We can fund internal university competitive call for research projects with a gender sensitive approach. But we can also consider what is can be done in terms of research communication. And in this case, we can go ahead with public engagement actions, but we can also consider the importance of gender balance in panels and scientific events. For instance, in Italy, we have currently a project that is being produced. First of all, it is being promoted by our national radio broadcast, that it is called No Women, No Panel. Basically, this call for action that is being signed by many regions, local government and universities, and that we would like also to sign as well, is basically saying you cannot have a panel in an event, a scientific event, without women or without men. You should have a gender balance or aim at the gender balance, but it is extremely important that the literature shows us that it is important to have someone that is this gender equality or gender balance, because it is very important to also make people who are listening to this event more sensitive to the fact that he or she can be part of this line of research, and you are going to give voice of those researchers. Also, there should be more sex-gender balance in research groups, and you can do it in many ways, like, for instance, looking at who is the API, introducing our criteria to reduce the underrepresentation of women in research groups, but also promote the participation of new mothers in research projects. We know that it is very difficult to get to profile in research that is continuous, and there are moments of the life cycle when you might when you have to discontinue your research path, or you can have more difficulties by an increase in the care work, and then it is important to intervene also in that case. And also, you can have the institution of Internal Research Council working group to identify positive actions for encouraging female participation in research calls for proposal. Then you can have mentoring activities and also provision of a grant to support the research activities of female scholars of the university during periods of maternity leave. That is very important in order also to guaranteeing the continuity of research activities and encouraging the return of mothers after the leave. I'm now talking about mothers because still is also the research in the field of tertiary education and research centers show that also in our area it is much more spread the care work for women. Something is changing, but there is still an important difference. Then we turn to integrating the gender dimension in teaching. Then we can see that if we try to do so, we can do it by different topic of study in higher education. We can do it by really paying attention to the sex of the researchers in the science communication. We can use also a special perspective of inclusivity in the teaching methods. And we use perspective of inclusivity in the very access to higher education. These things definitely must have been tackled by previous speakers. For instance, Claudia Canali is coordinating a very important project in Italy that is also being mentioned in She Figures, that is called Digital Girls, that can have a very positive impact on making women more close to digital, and then probably also more happy to be included in higher education path they are usually excluded from, or in using digital technologies also in their work. And then again, there is the importance of the perspective of analysis. And again, just few action examples. We can have courses or training activities for students or academic staff on the gender perspective or on the gender dimension of research. But also we should introduce tools that can enable us to classify the courses using the gender perspective. We can see that amongst these kind of actions, a best action practice that we have found in Gender Equality Plan is, together with envisaging a special section within each syllabus of your course, describing in the form why you consider the content of your course having a gender impact, and specify then the use of the gender approach as a methodology or as a content related to gender equality. That is basically very much also encouraging gender equality, encouraging the visibility of gender perspective in your courses. So these are just some references that I wanted to make for you, and I'm here for any questions you would like to raise.
Thank you very much, Tindara, for your speech and for your suggestions. As usual, I ask to our listeners if there are any questions to you. What I would like to say, I would like to remember, as you mentioned, that is still the mother who stay at home for maternity leave, even though as you remembered, that also in our country, some fathers are starting to take advantage of this benefit. I hope they will be more in the future. So now I would like to ask listeners if there are any questions. Otherwise, I would like to you, what do you think can be the best practice to integrate gender in research? This is the first question.
Well, we know that there are many possibilities to do so, and I just show you some actions. But definitely, since the situation is very complex in research, and when we look at she figures, by the way, I think that later on in this year, there will be the new results of she figures that can show us whether something has changed. And basically, we can have a complexity of actions that can help us in achieving this integration of gender perspective in research, both in terms of tackling specific content that is gender sensitive, and also in making your group of research more gender equal. So I was talking before also of a break in your career that can be helped by special actions that can provide mothers with more incentive also to be part of research groups, and also when mother or fathers are not at work but are very much taken by care work, then in that case it is important to have additional funding in order to have someone that can substitute you in those periods, but also to not, as it is also visible in our organization, to try and keep the person really in contact with the research project. Because it is also very, they are usually organized in a continuity, so it is very important that you can then go back, not being, having completely lose any contact with your research group. So these can be important. But also I think that talking about research, in my speech, it was very, I did stress the importance of the European Commission. So I think that also funding organization like it is the European Commission for Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020, and other line of research, pressing an attention, putting an attention on not only the topic, but also on each one that is providing a proposal to reflect upon the gender impact of that proposal is going really to make people, researchers, more sensitive to the impact of their research that apparently can be seen as not impacting on gender inequalities, really having an impact. So that also is, in my opinion, very important.
Thank you, Tindara. We have another question for you, which is what can be the role of the research funding organization in shaping the research activities and outputs of the research?
Well, I was talking before about the European Commission. Of course, what the European Commission is doing can be fruitfully done also by other research funding organizations, also at national and at local level. And it is very important in that strand of action to try and also evaluating the impact of this incentive of research in this field. And for instance, it can be either a prerequisite, as the European Commission put on the Gender Equality Plan for access to funding Horizon Europe, but also it can be explicitly providing a line of research on gender issues that are considered relevant in your context, either at national or local level, or also to try and ask people who are proposing a project to reflect upon the impact on gender inequalities in the context of that specific project. And also
thank you.
The gender composition of the group.
Thank you very much, Tindara. And now I would like to everybody to please take a moment to answer to our survey that I share you now in the next slide. Sorry, because before it wasn't. Now I ask you if you can see the QR code. You can see the QR code, okay? So take a moment to answer this survey. I remember that your opinion is very important and will help us to improve the organization of future UNIgreen events. Okay. So I would like to thank you to all the speakers for their speeches and for their suggestions. I thought it was a really interesting morning and I hope that our universities, our countries will encourage the gender equality plan within them. There is certainly a lot to do, but I think meetings like this are really important and can change people's way of thinking. I am very happy to coordinate this speech, this meeting, and I thank you all of you for your attention.
Thank you, Giacomo. Thank you for your coordination.
Oui, non, on a dit, de toute façon.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank
bye
you.
bye.
Thank you,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much.
Bye.
Bye bye.